If I came up to you this morning with a little pad and paper in my hand and said, give me 5 words that are the best descriptors of who you are, what would you say? Think about it for just a minute. Take your palm of your hand, put it in front of you. Take your finger from the other hand and write down there. What would those be? If somebody said to you, you cannot leave worship this morning, you cannot go eat lunch until you've identified 5 words that describe you. Would it be kind of like some of the characteristics of the 7 dwarfs? Who can remember some of those? Shout them out. There's how come everybody said dopey at the same time? Dopey, sneezy, sleazy. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Bashful, grumpy. Would any of those be in that list? Doc. I think we have some docs in here. Bashful. When was the last time somebody described you as courageous? Courageous. I have been intrigued with this word now, almost for a month. As even before we started the We series, and as we have kind of lived into what I would call some courageous behaviors, I have been intrigued with when and how we tackle courage, when and how that is sparked within us. As I have spent some time thinking about it, I've put it down as kind of one of my most important qualities ever in a person. We see examples in our media today of heroic, very brave people. I think of, for instance, the young men that were on the train that were able to overwhelm the terrorist before he was able to accomplish his mission. And that kind of cast, well, man, that's real courage, right? That's like super steroidal courage. But what made them do that? I've really been thinking a lot about what, if you keep backing up that behavior, what is that moment? What's that little spark that says, right here, right now, I'm going to act? I think we all have potential to have it. Some of us have it more than others. It seems as if some of us were just given it as a part of our DNA. Some of us are anti-courageous people, right? So what is it about those people who have it, live it, own it, that makes them different than you or I? Obviously, it has a lot to do with how we live our life, doesn't it? Think about your attitude now that you've been thinking about being courageous. Were your parents courageous people? Did they demonstrate for you what it meant to live every day in a courageous way? Now, set aside the notion of courage having to be an anti-terrorist hero, because whereas those are huge and important moments, they're not a part of our everyday doing life kind of behavior for the most part, right? But there are other things that I believe we have the opportunity to step into courageously that we're going to unpack this morning. The scripture, my goodness, is ripe and full of phrases about courage. I'm going to hit you with a couple of them this morning. There were too many to put on the screen, but going all the way back to Deuteronomy with Moses and to the exiles. Deuteronomy 31, Moses to his people says, "Be strong and bold, have no fear or dread of them, because it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not fail you nor forsake you." Then, this is at the beginning of what I would call Moses' retirement, or a Moses' succession plan, if you would, when Moses was realizing he was not going to be with the Israelites into the promised land. Joshua was called forward. And here's the conversation that Moses and Joshua had. It said, "Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him, 'In the sight of all Israel, be strong and bold, for you are the one who will go with this people into the land that the Lord has sworn to their ancestors. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed.'" All right. Be strong and bold. Why? Who is with you? God. Now, Joshua 1. God, just follow the dots here. God to Joshua. God said, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall put this people in possession of the land that I swore to their ancestors to give them." Then he says again in verse 7, "Only be strong, and this time very courageous, being careful to act in accordance with all the law that my servant Moses commanded you." If you fast forward to the very end of this interchange in verse 9, he says, "I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Are y'all beginning to see a trend here? What is it that helps us be strong and courageous? God's presence with us is what it seems to me. 1 Chronicles 28. Now the storyline continues. David to Solomon. He says, David says, "Be strong and of good courage, and act. And act. Do not be afraid or dismayed, for the Lord God, my God, is with you." Seems to be a theme. What do you say? I'm not the biggest Bible scholar, but it seems to me that we are able to be bold and to be brave and to be strong because who is with us? God. Paul says to the church in Corinth in 1 Corinthians 16, "Keep alert, stand firm in your faith, be courageous and strong." And we know all throughout Jesus' ministry there were examples of Jesus being brave and strong. Just a couple that I can think of just automatically. At the age 12, he stood up in front of the temple. All the priests, all the elders taught them, preached to them. He calmed the storms and the sea. He stood in front of the woman and protected her when the people were coming forward ready to stone her. He stood before Pilate. He went to the cross. Courage. How do we live this kind of courageous life? As most preachers do, they practice or rehearse or poke at the people who they live with to get ideas. You might have seen my picture yesterday. My cat was more than happy to help me write my sermon, but she and I we communicate, but not in that kind of way. But Wendy came through the house, and I said, "Wendy, what do you think of when you think of the word courage?" And she said, "Well, I think of the root of the word. It is," of course, I didn't. I was like, "What?" I had kind of one of those husband moments where there's a great big question mark over my head. The husbands in the room who know that moment identified. Courage is taken from the Latin and French word cœur, which means from the heart. This morning I did a little more Googling on that, and one of the definitions I came up with said, "Courage originally meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart." Or to put it another way, to live from the heart. All right. I don't know about you all, but I was really beginning to get a real clear picture of courage. I had, in my mind, assimilated courage to be those huge, heroic moments. Those kind of plant your flag moments, those, in battle, draw your sword moments, those leap or be burned up moments. It is all of those, but it's also living from that deep core that we have that I think we don't often tap into. Because if we only wait for those huge, jump or die moments, we're going to miss a whole lot of other opportunities to be courageous. Think with me, and man, gosh, it has been really tough of late to be a police officer or a firefighter or anyone in the public who is standing in the line of defending all of us. We see all the violence against these individuals, but what we don't see are the stories day after day after day of their amazing, courageous activities. Going into neighborhoods that you or I might not go into, befriending people that you or I might be afraid to befriend, coming up alongside folks who are in need, and without asking any questions, what do? They offer assistance. What about you? What about me? How do I live my daily life courageously? Think about it for a minute. Do you? I think I've told y'all before, I was raised primarily, my dad was there, but he was a workaholic and was hardly around. But my mom did the majority of momming and teaching, and she was a very fearful person. She raised us more out of an orientation of, don't go there, something might happen. Don't do that, something might happen. Don't, any of y'all have that kind of fearful mom or fearful dad syndrome? So we were raised thinking everything out in the world is something that we don't really need to do or want to do or should do. So it wasn't until I got to be a little bit older that I thought, well, that's kind of a crazy way to live, always being afraid of everything. And so I've had to purposely kind of reprogram my thinker to think not so much courageously, although I think at times I was very courageous to do some things I did. Some might say crazy, but when you've lived almost all your life fearful, almost everything feels like an act of courage. This morning, I want us to watch a little video. A lot of times in here, we pick out videos that are of amazing, great, big, strong adults who have tackled different events in their life. And we're not going to do that this morning. We're going to hear from a little guy named Cody. And there's something about Cody's story that struck me, and I hope it strikes you. I need to give you just a little disclaimer. The worship team advised me not to show this because it is 3.5 minutes long. I promised them that you all had a 3.5 minute long attention span. Can you do that? Yes. I think you can too. The pictures move fast. There's a beat. So whatever is your go to sleep thing, I don't think this will be yet. And so just in case you are prone to nod off, you have some homework. Be looking for the source of Cody's courage, right? Listen for the source of Cody's courage. Let's meet Cody.
When you cry, be sure to dry your eyes, 'cause better days are sure to come. And when you smile, be sure to smile wide, and don't let them know that they have won. And when you walk with pride, don't show the hurt inside, because the pain will soon be gone. When you dream big as the ocean blue. When you dream it might come true. But when you dream big. And when you laugh, be sure to laugh out loud, 'cause it will carry all your cares away. And when you see the beauty all around and in yourself, and it will help you feel okay. And when you pray for strength to help you carry on, when the troubles come your way. And when you dream, dream big, as big as the ocean blue. 'Cause when you dream it might come true. And when you dream, dream big. When you laugh, be sure to laugh out loud, 'cause it will carry all your cares away. And when you see the beauty all around and in yourself, and it will help you feel okay. And when you pray for strength to help you carry on, and when the troubles come your way. When you dream, dream big, as big as the ocean blue. 'Cause when you dream it might come true. When you dream, dream big.
So what do you think? What was Cody's, what is that thing? Did you see it in his face? That sparkle? 20 surgeries, 20 plus surgeries. You know, he had to say a couple of different times, I can't do this. I can't keep doing this. You know, there had to be times, parents, that he woke up in the middle of the night crying. There had to be mornings when he said, I don't want to go to school today. But there was something about Cody that I want. I don't know about you. What was it? What do you think? People I want to meet are his mom and dad. I want to see and hear how they said to Cody to not be a victim, to go, sure, you're going to go to school. Come on, let's go. Sure, you're going to be on the swim team. Of course you are. Sure, you can learn how to ride a bike. Sure, you're going to walk. What's that attitude? And then where did they get that attitude? That is what I think it looks like and feels like, folks, to live courageously every day as a person of faith. There's going to be surgeries. There's going to be cancer. There's going to be devastation. But I think deep within us, we can tap into this God presence that says, dream big. Dream big. Don't settle. Don't let someone else tell you who you have to be or can't be, where you can live or can't live, what you have to believe or not believe. I have an amazing privilege of knowing so many of you all and hearing your stories. We have some amazingly courageous people in our congregation. People even now who are sitting in our midst, who I will not name, but we have moms and dads who are courageously battling addictions. We have some families who have decided to pursue their dreams, and one of the other spouses has gone back to school and is embarking on a whole brand new career that will step them out of a very nice, guaranteed, lucrative income into a world of the unknown. But that's where they feel like God is calling them. We have another family who the dad has had amazing run in the restaurant business and is about to open a restaurant of his very own. And when a person opens a restaurant, a family opens a restaurant. This list goes on and on. Did you see, guys, teenagers, did y'all see the girl, I think she's either a junior or senior from a brand new Frisco high school, who said, at our high school, let's not do mums. Let's wear a flower, but let's use the money that would have gone to make these big colossal mum productions to help eradicate hunger in our neighborhood or in our community. To me, that takes courage to set out and go a different way on a different path. I know I need to wrap up, but I am so intrigued with and fascinated with that spark that people have that helps them to live more courageously. Couple of things I think we who are growing that can do is pay particular attention to the moment you don't want to use it. Pay attention to the moment when you feel afraid or intimidated or less than. You all know that feeling. We have this thing that kind of goes off inside of us that's like this, like fear. And what can we do? We can either retreat, we can avoid it, we can come up with some kind of other coping mechanism. My favorite one, praise Jesus, is coming back, Bluebell. But that created a whole nother situation. Pay attention to those things that make you feel afraid and go to them if you can and try to decide, what can I do? What's my next best step? And what do we already know? Who is going along with us? God. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to step into this situation. God, you're with me, right? Right. Okay, here we go. And then I think it is kind of like a habit or a muscle that needs to be frequently used. Courage begets courage begets courage. I don't think we all start off being the courageous person who grabs the machine gun from the guy on the subway train in France. But I think we can be that person that stands up for somebody who other people are talking about and says, no, wait a minute, that's not true. Well, that's an act of courage. Or it could be an act of courage to say, we're not going to do it that way at our house anymore, guys. I love what Michael Castleberry says to his men. Castleberry men are leaders, and here's how we're going to do it. And so he totally reframes the paradigm of how Chance and Bennett are going to be and live. And it's successful every time, right? Bennett's going, yep. And then watch for courageous people. Watch for those moments when you see it in somebody else and either learn from it and or affirm it. We all love attaboys and attagirls. But what if somebody catches you being courageous? Some years ago, I was sitting with a group of guys and told, perhaps for the very first time, the entire unfiltered Doug Meyer story. I was terrified. I think I've told you that before. I thought at any given point, I will either pass out or throw up. It was a coin toss most of the evening, which one was going to happen. When I finished, the guy next to me just patted me on the back and said, "Way to go, buddy, that was courageous." I had never before imagined myself as being a courageous person or stepping into living courageously. I invite you to think about your life. Think about as you come this morning and take communion, how God is living in and through you to live courageously and how you can continue to grow and live as a courageous person in the world right where you are. Let's pray. Holy God, we live in a world that is full and ripe with opportunity to be bold and distinct and, yes, even courageous, whether it is in the hallways at school, around the kitchen table at home, or standing in line at the grocery store. God, help us to find your presence within us and to live boldly and courageously every day and in every way. Amen.